what are the major challenges you are facing during this crisis?
You know, it changes. Every cycle or every wave has new challenges. Right now, it would be beds, and that's for everybody. It doesn't matter how rich or poor you are. There are no hospital beds for the most part in Bangkok right now. And then the other one is, of course, if you're staying at home, certain people have COVID symptoms more than others, and they have a lack of oxygen. And so if you're at home, it's not one of those things you go to the kitchen and just pull out a bottle of oxygen. So we are supporting that as well.
Basically, it's sourcing materials, to help people under the different circumstances. Is that right?
Yeah, and it's really responding to the things that happen. For example, now we also have the situation with the worker camps, where people are stuck inside the camps because they have to quarantine, and supply them with anything they need. Basically, mostly food. They have no income, and if the construction company doesn't support with anything, which does happen, these people are literally starving inside. Obviously, they're not allowed to go outside because they were ordered to quarantine there.
So the focus of your support was, or probably still is, Klong Toi, yeah? And for the different slum communities around there. Can you tell me a bit about what they're facing? Yeah.
Of course, there's around 130,000 people only in Klong Toi, so this is around 39 communities. Most people that live there work in the lower end segments of the job sector. Think about, people at the gas station, delivery drivers, security guards. And in a crisis like this, obviously the lower income jobs go first, which means that they are immediately affected. Now, when they lose their job, usually the whole family relies on that income. So it ripples out through actually the whole country. So that's the main reason why they need this support.
Did you get a drone just to practice with, a cheap one, learn how to use it, or it just came to you just like that? Yeah.
I actually went for kind of a mid-range drone. It's called a DJI Mini #2.
Yeah.
And the package I got, you can either buy the drone just on its own, or you can buy it with what they call the Go Fly package, I think. It's the drone, 3 batteries, which is very important, and the controller, and then a little bag that everything fits in. It's like a camera bag with little compartments. And it's suited my needs perfectly.
The rules and regulations in Thailand, can you sort of briefly explain what they are?
Any drone that has a camera must be licensed. It's got a camera and you need to license it, and you need 3 things: a 1 million baht liability policy, insurance policy. You need a license to be a pilot of the drone, and you need a license for the radio transmitter in the drone. And you get those on 2 different websites here in Thailand.
And can foreigners be licensed the same as a Thai?
There are very different rules if you're Thai or if you're Farang. And I ran into that problem and basically gave up. And I sold the drone to my friend who's Thai, and now he is the licensed owner and has listed me as an additional pilot on the drone, and that's the only way it works. Because basically one of the licenses says it's designed, the website, in the choices that you can click, you're either Thai or you're a tourist, and you're bringing it in on your holiday and then you're taking it back out again. There's no possible choice for being a long-term foreigner because the license is only good for 90 days. Okay. And there's no possible way to extend another 90 days. It just doesn't exist as an option on the website.
The pilot license, is that just an application? That's not a test? You don't have to,
No, there's no test associated with it. You just simply fill in a lot of information on the website, and then they take a month or 2, and then they come back and approve it, or they ask for more information.
That's annually renewable or ongoing?
Well, as I said, if you're a Farang, you have to renew it every 90 days, but that's impossible. But if you're Thai, it's good for the lifetime of the drone.
Anyway, so what's happening down in Pattaya?
Yeah, correct. Obviously, I'd love to provide you with some more upbeat news and things are getting better, but sadly, they're not. A lot of people may have read that more stricter overnight restrictions have been brought into play, whereby pretty much from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m., although they haven't enforced a curfew as such as they have in Bangkok, everything's closed. So kind of by default, other than sort of walking your dog or whatever, there's nothing to do anyway.
What about the checkpoints? Because what I read was that the checkpoints have been set up more to stop people coming into the province from Bangkok. Is there any news? Are they actually enforcing this?
I've not seen any physical checkpoints, but then again, as I say, I've not travelled into provincial this week. And as you say, I think it was kind of almost like entering sort of main town Pattaya, if you like. There seem to be checkpoints and temperature checks and that type of thing, and clearly trying to avoid people coming from Bangkok en masse and people without a valid reason.
What about vaccinations? Sorry. I mean, I'll give an example from Bangkok, from Pattaya Hospital, Pattaya 2 Hospital. Foreigners were told to go to their website to sign up a Google form. But when you go to it, it immediately says full over quota. Now they've put a statement up, which we'll put up on the screen, which says they have an allocation of 100 vaccines per day, yeah, which gives implementation of 100 registrations per day, yeah. How the hell are they going to manage to roll this out? Why wouldn't they just collect the registration information so they can inform people?
I think, let's just face it, there isn't enough vaccines out there because we were promised the vaccine was to be produced in Thailand and they haven't come up with it. All right, let's get into what do you do. So your role is like you support people, but what issues do you support them over?
Mainly what we do is we listen to people who are in distress, especially people who are suicidal. We have this, we call it unconditional listening service. So, when people come in, call in, no matter how they feel, no matter how bad the situations are, our role is to be there for them, to let them know that they are not alone facing all the problems. So basically, we give them emotional support, and this support is given through active listening, unconditional listening, non-judgmental listening.
You're talking about, there's like two types of help that you give. It could be the 911 call, as it were, and they're very desperate. Then you may have the visits, which can also be counselling, I guess, because that you're getting into the realm of counselling on a face-to-face.
You mentioned about counselling. I need to clarify a little bit. We are not counsellors. We are just volunteers giving emotional support. By saying that we are not counselors, and it means that we don't advise, we don't give counsel to people as to what to do. Basically, we provide emotional first aid. We give them emotional support. But if they need problem solving, we don't do that, and they would have to go to a professional counselor. But a better way in preventing suicide and helping people, because generally people feel suicidal because they feel that they are isolated. They feel that they are left to face the problems all by themselves. Our role is to make them feel that they are not all alone, and we are there to walk alongside them when they are going through the most difficult moments in life. Our callers can talk to us with any subject, any issues, any topic. Even if you're not suicidal, if you're only lonely and you need a friend to talk to, you can call us, or if you have family problems or whatever, and everything is confidential. So, they can tell us anything. We're there to listen to them.
So what's Hua Hin doing then? What have you got for us?
It's a little bit quiet, actually. But
Really?
the good news is that a lot of places have just recently opened. The fitness centers have opened, and a lot of the outdoor activity areas are now reopened. And also some of the gyms and some of the spas have reopened as well just recently. The numbers of people being infected and treated have been on the rise over the past few days.
I see that for Bangkok, anyone coming from Bangkok, Nakhon Pathom, Nonthaburi, Pathum Thani, Samut Prakan, Samut Sakhon, basically they've got to register, when they arrive in the province, So anyone travelling have to do registration,
Well, they're supposed to. I mean, in reality, who's actually going to do that? I think very few. But the fact that people have been told to register means that, you know, somebody's covered their side of doing things. Who knows how many are actually going to comply with that? And nobody knows the answer.
Yeah, is there anything to report, Richard?
The golf course, which Mike has done a video at, the main Hua Hin golf course in the center of town, that's actually had to close because they've had quite a few staff there that were infected. I was told about 9. I'm not sure whether that's the correct number, but around that. So that's being closed for a couple of weeks or so.
I also saw that you had a break-in in Hua Hin.
I don't know much about that.
No, an elephant broke into a kitchen and
Oh,
started stealing things.
Yes. Yeah, that's been doing the rounds. Yeah.
There's
It's
a picture of it
actually
now
up
on the
the
screen,
hill,
I hope.
Yes.
Over by the Palu waterfall. It's about 15 or 20 kilometers outside of town, up in the mountains.
It appears to have taken off, though, doesn't it? Because everybody seems to be swapping the elephant for like a durian or somebody that they don't like.
I'd just like to understand, office and work and home working. What are the pros and cons for individuals and companies?
If you went back to last year, I don't think anybody would have asked that question. I think that many organisations, many people assume that work from home, work in the office is the same. But there's research coming out now that says that that's not the case, and that there are in fact people that are suited and there are those that are not.
So what would you say to people that have no choice but to work from home?
I think there's 2 aspects to it. If we take the individual perspective first, as an individual, it's really important to understand what pushes your buttons, what things motivate you, what's your preferred way of doing things. And if your preferred way of doing things is to be out, is to be interacting with others, then you have to create some way to do that. Now, there's lots and lots of web-based interacting tools, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Meet, etc., etc. You have to structure that in there so that you're meeting people a lot. If you fit in the other category where you're really, really happy to be at home, you also need to think about, well, what's my space? How am I going to set up the space? Where will I feel happy? Where will I feel less stressed? And for each person, it really, really is an individual process. For the business, it's different though. The business needs to understand their workforce, which people are suited and which are not. Mm-hmm. And that's a different conversation. The future, I think, is impossible to predict. I think it's reasonable to assume that work from home will be with us for a long time. And to me, what that means is, if I own the business or if I'm a leader of anybody, I need to understand my people and I need to know which ones are at risk if they work from home. You know, as a business, it's important to understand which, if any, of my people are at risk. And if they are at risk, put a mitigation strategy in place to actually look after them. For coming back to the office, again, it's got to be a plan. We have to accept that we have to rebuild the teams in some cases. We have to rebuild the culture in some cases. So once again, there needs to be a strategy for that.